So for the next section, we're going to talk about jail programs, pretrial, and alternative sentencing. So I'd like to welcome Katie and Stephanie to the stage to take over for this portion for us.
Alrighty, so my name is Katie Martin. I'm with our pretrial services unit. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for a little over 8 years, with pretrial for the last 4 of those years. We've changed quite a bit in that time. I'm excited to be here, though, to talk a little bit about what we do, because the majority of people I ask, hey, what do you know about pretrial? I just get blank stares, so hopefully this will help a little bit. But as Brad was mentioning in his presentation about the jail, during video arraignment, the inmate gets to go in front of the judge where the judge makes that release decision. One of the decisions the judge can make is to put an individual on pretrial supervision while they're pending their court case. That's where we come into play. So essentially, our main goal is to provide information back and forth between the defendant while they're out of custody and the courts through the judges, prosecutor, defense. And the judge will set a specific type of conditions of release. Sometimes they can just be out and do whatever they need to do, just make sure they get to court and stay out of trouble. But sometimes the judge can put additional conditions of release on them, and I'll talk about those in a second. So we're there to help that person navigate that court part, just to make sure they're meeting all their conditions of release, and then also making sure that we're addressing any barriers that they might have to success. So some of those conditions of release that the judge might set are drug and alcohol monitoring, location, so a GPS that they might have to wear. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a visual what those look like. Our goal in the office is we're going to assign everybody a case manager, and that case manager is going to sit down and say, okay, here's your court order, and the judge wants you to do drug and alcohol monitoring. Tell me about your transportation. Tell me about your job situation. Tell me about your finances, because we want to set them up on the program where they're going to be the most successful, so we can get that information back to the judge on how they're doing. But then we can also make sure that we're not putting them in a difficult situation where they're not going to be successful. So alcohol monitor device, that's one that can just be worn on the ankle. It reads any kind of alcohol consumption through the skin. I have no idea how it works. We trust our experts to do that for us. But that's kind of one of those like set it and forget it programs. They don't have to even think about it other than the fact that you've got this thing strapped on your ankle. The GPS works a lot the same way. It's also on the ankle, and then it just does location services. Most of our individuals who are assigned a court order with a GPS, they're typically in for, or they're facing some kind of violent charge. A lot of domestic violence cases, assault, things like that. They might be wearing a GPS for that. Also, if the judge might think they're a flight risk, then they might have to wear a GPS. The portable breath test is, that one takes a lot of work. I don't know how people do that. I would fail miserably at doing that, but it's 4 tests a day, and it'll text you. The text says, go take a test. You take it, you blow into it, just like a breathalyzer test. And then we've got a transdermal drug patch now, and that's a lot easier for people than trying to do a urinalysis test and going in and providing a sample. It's very awkward and uncomfortable. That's not a fun program to do. So we have backup ways to make it a little less invasive. We can do oral swab testing for drugs, or we can do that transdermal drug patch. But again, we don't do any of that in office. We contract with vendors to do that for us. These programs, as you might imagine, cost money. So while those defendants are out of custody and they're on pretrial supervision, we're not charging them any fees for their case management services or to be meeting with us or anything like that, but they are paying for these, and it can be anywhere from like $100 to $300 a month. It's a lot of money. The good news is we do have funds set aside to help them pay for this, and we do have a screening process in place to get those fees reduced or waived based off of their financial situation. So that all has to come through a court order from the judge. Some of the benefits of pretrial supervision, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I think we run a really great jail. It's clean, we have great staff in there, but obviously it's gonna be better for that person to be out because they can maintain employment, they can maintain family connections, they can get started in any kind of treatment or counseling or maintain that if they've already started. We're gonna give them case management support, right? So we're not just there to find out when someone is breaking the rules or getting into trouble, we want to, again, find the barriers and address them and see what we can help with. Can we get you set up in treatment if you want to get started? Do you need individual counseling? We do suicide assessments sometimes right in office, sitting right at our desk. We never really know what we're going to encounter on a daily basis, so all case management services are extremely individualized to that person as they come in. And a lot of times this is their first time getting into trouble. So it's their very first time, even being in this kind of situation. We want to make sure we're helping support them in any way we can. Oh, and then one thing I forgot to say on the last slide was court date reminders. So Ada County has a court date reminder system. I think it's fantastic, and we automatically enroll every single person who comes through pretrial supervision into that program. And it's not just for the case that we're supervising them on, we do it for every single open case they have in Ada County. Obviously those text reminders that come through to them are going to be in English, so we can't really address that part, but we are setting them up with those reminders. All right, so limits of pretrial supervision. These are kind of like our misconceptions, right? I think a lot of times people think like, I don't know what to do. We're gonna refer them to their attorney. We cannot give legal advice. We're that neutral third party. We can't provide character letters for people for court. That's not going to happen. We cannot issue warrants. We can also not arrest people. We cannot get people out of jail. So I think there's a fear sometimes of people coming into our office like, well, I haven't been doing my urinalysis tests. They're gonna just arrest me. No, we are not. We cannot do that. So we're trying really hard to make sure we're building rapport and building support with those individuals. Now, if the judge goes and issues that warrant, then our hands are tied at that point, but we cannot take someone to jail. We can't make release recommendations to the court, and we cannot remove someone from pretrial supervision too. That all has to go through the attorney and through the court process. We're there just to transmit information back and forth. Language access. So we actually start in the jail. Before someone goes to that video arraignment, we're doing a pretrial assessment, and part of that assessment includes an interview with the inmate at that time. So if they need language services, we will use the language line or Voyance to make sure we're getting an interpreter on the phone. We do find that sometimes we have our questions to ask, but then they have a million questions too, because they're very confused by the process. So we'll provide those extra time just to make sure we're answering all their questions. Because you imagine trying to translate, do you have any no contact orders with someone who's never been involved in the criminal justice system? The first thing we get is, what is that? So we're trying to translate that and get that information across to them as well. Once they get into our office though, if it's a scheduled appointment, we will always try to get an in-person interpreter. And as Jessica mentioned, we use the Boise police list as well. We have certain people on there who we use constantly, and they're fantastic interpreters. And then typically, we do see sometimes that people might want to bring a family member back in the room with them once they're in their office to translate for them. We do not allow that, not unless it's court ordered. We want to make sure it's a neutral third party that's doing that translation services. Alrighty. And then of course boring statistics. I love them, but so we have a lot of daily open cases. I would say on average though, we're actively supervising about 600 people, and that's been like that for the last, I guess, a couple years now. And despite everything that kind of happened with COVID and everything, our court appearance rate remains pretty high. It's always been around 85% for several years now. Overall success has gone down a little bit, but again, I think people are staying on pretrial longer before their cases are getting completed. But again, we're just trying to help them through that as much as we can. So, and one thing I didn't mention is anybody with any type of crime is eligible for pretrial supervision if the judge chooses it. So it could be something like a DUI excessive all the way up to felony battery on law enforcement. So anyone and everyone might be coming in and out of our office. So, and then I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie. There's our contact information for pretrial if you ever need to get a hold of us or if you have any questions.
And there you go. Thank you. Thanks. All right. My name is Stephanie Brastrup. I worked at the Ada County Sheriff's Office for about 11 years now. I manage alternative sentencing and programs, and I'm going to go through those different options. Okay, so you guys have heard from a lot of different people, and so alternatives and programming happens. So programming can happen in the jail or after somebody has been sentenced already, and then alternatives happens after that. So pretrial happens before they get sentenced, and then for all of the programs that I'm going to be talking about, they are sentenced to these different programs that I'm going to be talking about. So under alternative sentencing, a judge would order somebody who has gotten sentenced to, say, a DUI, a petty theft, they've gotten in trouble for some reason, the judge would sentence them, say, hey, you have 10 days of jail time to serve, but rather than serving in jail, you can serve it on one of these multiple different options. And so at the Ada County Sheriff's Office, we have 8 different options that individuals can participate in. The goal for us at the Sheriff's Office is that if you don't have to be in jail, you should not be in jail, and you should pay for your sentence or serve your sentence out in the community so you don't lose those connections. And so these programs include our Sheriff's Community Service Program. This is one of the biggest programs. It probably has on average around 300 individuals in that program. And basically we partner with agencies around the community, such as animal shelters, food banks, that kind. And then these individuals who have time to do, again, rather than serving it in jail, they go and do community service for those hours. Our Sheriff's Labor Detail is absolutely amazing. I think it's why Ada County is so clean. We're the people that are cleaning up the freeways. You see them like driving up and down the freeways. We go to the landfill, the parks, that kind of stuff. And so again, they serve 8 hours on those programs rather than doing 1 day in jail. And so it benefits the community and the people that are participating in it. We also have house arrest and house arrest with work release for those individuals who have medical or mental health needs that can't, I just died. That can't serve it in one of our other programs. I'll keep talking and I'll try to talk really loud. I've been told my phone at work tells me to shh sometimes because I talk too loud. So all of our other programs are housed at our Community Transition Center. And I don't want to forget this, but if you guys, any of you want to take a tour of the Community Transition Center, please contact me. I'd love to show you around. It is a 108-bed facility. Adjacent to the jail, and it is for people who, again, are sentenced to jail, but the judge has given them the opportunity to serve it out of custody. And so they still sleep in this facility, but it gives them so many options to go into the community, continue their lives, and continue to get the resources that they need. So they can go do their jobs. They can go get case management services. I'm working again. They can get treatment, all of those things through this center. They are all ordered by the judge in order to participate in this program. But it's a fantastic program to serve their time, but to not lose all of the resources that they have. We also offer case management services. So I believe, Brad, you talked a little bit about this inside the jail. And so if any inmate needs any kind of services, they can get on the kiosk, they can ask the deputy, any of that. And my case managers will go in and assist those individuals with case planning, housing, treatment, any of the barriers that they need to move out of the way to be successful in the community. We do focus on individuals who are 60 days or less from being released, just because we don't have the bandwidth at the moment to help 1,000 individuals. But we do look at all requests that are submitted to us, and they can do that through the kiosk. We also teach programming. It's actually very exciting. We're also now teaching at the Community Transition Center, and that just started about a month ago, but we are teaching programming both in the jail and in the CTC, Community Transition Center. Sorry, there's a lot of alphabet soup in this area. And so with programming, we focus on substance abuse, active behavioral change, workforce readiness, and creative expressions. And so judges can order individuals to participate in these programs, and they can do it in the jail, or they can do it at the Community Transition Center, so they can get the skills and tools and lessons that they need to be successful before they leave. I think my personal goal and the goal of the Sheriff's Office is we want to let people get out of our system, stay out of our system, and be better off when they leave our custody. So the last part I'm going to talk about is barriers. And so as I was putting this together, we're working on all of this as we speak. And so if you all out there have resources, please come find me afterwards. I'd love to break down some of these barriers. So language access is really an important part. Yo puedo hablar un poquito de español. So I have been able to help some people that speak Spanish, which I used to speak Spanish and teach classes in the jail. It was really fun. I don't do that as much anymore, but there are so many other languages. We've gotten court orders for somebody who speaks Burmese, Swahili, and we just don't have the services to come into the jail to do that. So we are looking for partners who maybe they can be sentenced. We can say to the judge, hey, they can be sentenced to the CTC and then maybe go out into the community and get the services that they need. They can go get a substance abuse class. They can go get a thinking class. They can go get some kind of class in the community where it's in their language and they can do that. We do use all of the same language. So Language Line, BPD is amazing. We love, since we partnered with them, because they actually sit in with our appointments and it's just so much more personable. We are working on our forms and curriculum. We do have them, some of them in Spanish for that. It's been really nice, especially when working with BPD because they're right there, but understanding what people are signing up for, right? They're signing so many different forms saying, yes, I'm gonna participate in this alternative sentencing program. Here's all the rules you have to follow. And making sure that they understand and can do the program is so important to us. And so it's really important that we bring partners along with us so that they understand that. Access to outside partners, all of our case managers, they take a one-on-one approach with those individuals, especially at the CTC, the Community Transition Center, to be able to provide those services that they need so that they're successful once they leave. And then we're still trying to work with costs. We do have some funding through the Sheriff's Office for translation services. But if you can imagine bringing somebody into the jail for 4 weeks, 5 hours a day. I mean, inmates don't want to be in the jail, so I don't know if translators want to be inside the jail either for that much time. And so we're working on other methods that we can offer to the judges, or so they can sentence people who speak a different language with other services. These are some of our statistics. Our success rate is 73%. I know this is really small, but recently we were talking about language access and language services, and we're like, well, what do we provide? What do our language statistics say? And so we pulled it for alternative sentencing, and what's interesting is, I don't know if you can see that, but at the very bottom is English. So other languages have been more successful in our programs, which is cool to see. We're always looking to be better, right? And so to provide more services, but that was kind of cool that other languages are being more successful in our program. So through alternative sentencing, we saved jail days 29,000. So that means that 29,000 days were spent in one of our other programs. And between pretrial, alternative sentencing, and probation, 2,000 individuals are not in jail because of these programs that the Sheriff's Office offers. And so it's fantastic. It's why our jail numbers are at 1,000, right? Is because we provide all of these other services, and our judges, prosecutors, public defenders partner with us to do that, and so it's great. I think I sped through that in time for questions. Somewhere.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask about how you define success. When you say 73% success rate, what does that mean?
Great question. So success for us is completing their days. So in my example where I gave 10 days, all options, if somebody completes those 10 days, that is success in alternative sentencing. For programs, success means graduating a class. So in the jail, there are 4-week classes. In the Community Transition Center, it's 3-week classes. And so it would be taking the curriculum, doing the homework, and then passing the class. And so graduating that class, that is success for us. I don't know what it is.
And then in pretrial, it's the time between being put on our supervision to the time of sentencing. Success is no new crimes and attending all court appearances. Any other?
Hi, how do you measure recidivism, however you can say that properly, and what kind of rates do you have for various programs or?
So, great question. We in alternative sentencing currently don't measure recidivism because of the way that we book people in. We use the jail management system. We are looking at other systems, but because we measure success on completion of the program, we don't follow up with individuals. We just don't have that capacity at the moment to follow up with individuals. Would you?
Yeah, I mean, it's recidivism stats for pretrial. They kind of go hand in hand with success stats because typically, if someone's going to miss a court date, it's going to result in a warrant, and typically they'll be brought back into custody. Not all the time, though. Sometimes warrants just go on forever, but typically, if someone's returned to custody while they're out on pretrial, that would be a recidivism. And I don't know the exact rates that we have for that right now.
So a lot of our problem-solving courts also use our alternatives, and so they come back multiple different times. It doesn't mean that they're recidivating. It just means that they didn't make it to a UA or something like that, so they use our programs for that, and so that's another way that the information would be skewed.
So are people able to opt out of the text reminders?
Yes, very good question. They can. So if they do not want to do the text reminders for court, what we will have them do instead is to call our office on a weekly basis just to talk through, hey, when is your next court date? And basically just leaving us a quick message, say, hey, I am so-and-so, this is my case number, here's my next court date. And then we can go back and just verify it. If it's changed or if we see something different, we'll give them a call back and make sure we clarify it.
And then a follow-up is, what is the most common reason people don't show up for their court date?
I mean, if I have to go based off of what they tell us, I would say transportation is a huge one. And then I would say also sometimes if they're not doing well on pretrial and they're nervous about going back in front of the judge because they're worried that they're going to get remanded to custody. That would be why.
Just a quick, I know that you said this, but I just want to clarify it in my mind. So anybody can have pretrial help. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, but it is a court-ordered basis. So anybody is eligible, but it has to be court-ordered by the judge. So the judge can do a number of different things in court. They can set a bond, and someone can just pay that and go about their merry way, make sure they get to court, do what they need to do. The judge can also release them on their own recognizance, so they don't have to spend any money. They can just get right out of jail. Or the judge can do a combination of those with pretrial supervision. So, you know, on any given day, if like 20 people go in front of a judge for video arraignment, we may get like 5 put on our supervision for various different reasons. It's really just up to the judge.
Are you finding that people who may have language barriers are coming for pretrial? I just think of so many of the cases that we've walked alongside people where this would have been huge. This would have been such a huge help, but they weren't court ordered towards that.
It happens quite frequently, actually, and we've seen an increase. Again, I wish that's a stat that I had right now, and I know Stephanie pulled hers, and we can certainly pull ours. But yes, it's happening quite a bit, and it's funny because we were just talking budget recently, and every time we use an interpreter or a language line, we pull from a budget line to pay for that, and the expenses are going up quite a bit.
Okay.
So.
And Stephanie, your program too is all court ordered, correct? Okay.
Well, one clarification, it doesn't have to be court ordered. If somebody chooses to apply for programs inside the jail, they can take programs inside the jail by just self-applying. but everything else, yes. Other questions?
Ladies, thank you ladies very much.